Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey there, thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Glad to have you along today. Thanks a lot for giving this a 5-star review and a written review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you get an opportunity to do it, it's always helpful to the operation here. We're grateful that you do that and let other people know about the podcast. You have helped this thing grow by leaps and bounds with your support over the years. We're so thankful. And we also can't do it without your support of our sponsors. And the fact that we have great sponsors in the podcast means everything to the operation. So if you enjoy listening to the podcast, if you don't mind rating it, and if you don't mind supporting great sponsors like our title sponsor, John Ruhlman. John has been with us now for a few years, and he is absolutely the best when you're looking for the best prices and the best coverage in health insurance. usmedicalplan.com is his website. Now, all you need to do is set aside, let's call it a half an hour. Reach out, usmedicalplan.com, or call 877-410-4321 and tell them what you're paying right now and what you think about your coverage right now. Or maybe you have some questions. You're just not really happy with your current health insurance situation. They'll talk you through your options. And here's the thing. At U.S. Medical Plan, they know 100 different private health insurance companies. So they're going to get you the best possible price and never going to skimp on coverage. I know a lot of people think, well, if it's cheaper, it's not going to be as good a coverage. Not true. In fact, what you'll find when you work with U.S. Medical Plan is oftentimes you're paying more. You're paying much more than you should be for health insurance for not as great a coverage. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. So here's my question. I've been wondering a little about this, and I don't know if you've shared my opinion on it or not. A few of you have sent me notes saying that you agree. One of the things that has kept the news cycle constantly churning for the first quarter of this year under the Trump administration has been Doge and Elon Musk, right? I don't think most people can deny that most of the headlines, most of them, not all, but most, that have been made by this Trump administration, the waste, fraud, and abuse exposed by Doge. And of course, we spent many, many days and weeks covering the fact that Elon Musk was target numero uno by the American left, freaking out in orbit about him going into these NGOs, kicking down the door, throwing everybody out, or saying, hey, you got, 5 days to tell us what the hell you do here, or take a buyout, or get out. And there was screaming and yelling and gnashing of teeth. Remember all the protests outside the buildings? And then all of that just mysteriously went away. Because the polling on it was a disaster. All of it was fraudulent. Nobody knew what USAID was. Nobody had ever heard of it, including me. And I pay relatively close attention to this stuff. Billions of dollars being wasted. And the Democrats were finally told, maybe you stumping for waste, fraud, and abuse isn't the best look. Maybe find a new angle. So they moved away from Elon, stopped talking about him. However, across the country, these inorganic, bought and paid for protests against Elon and Tesla specifically started popping up all over the country. People started keying Teslas and lighting Teslas and Tesla dealerships on fire. This caused Tesla stock to drop. Democrats started piling on Tesla rather than Elon Musk. They decided they were going to punish Tesla. Well, that led to Pam Bondi and DOJ getting involved and saying, hey, we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law if we end up catching you keying a Tesla. Trump felt inclined to jump in and try to rescue Tesla by bringing one to the White House and getting in it and showing everybody how great he thinks Tesla is. There's one sitting there in the White House now that's his personal car. But it has taken a toll on Elon Musk's company, Tesla. And so the news was earlier in the week that he is going to take a back seat and start getting a little more quiet and focus a little more energies on Tesla. Now, it was always true that at the end of next month, at the end of May, he intended to peel back anyway. But Fast Eddie, in my opinion, it seemed like he almost vanished from the scene entirely in the last couple of weeks. Unfair opinion? Unfair take?
No, I honestly, in person, I haven't seen him since that last cabinet meeting. And I don't know if that was early next week. I haven't seen him since.
So, just completely vanished. Now, here's another story. and I'm not much for this gossip stuff. I'm only sharing it with you because I find it interesting. That's been my observation, rightly or wrongly, that Elon Musk is kind of backing away, and publicly he's kind of said, I got to get back to the business of helping my colleagues at Tesla. I built this company, and now it seems to be in trouble thanks to my business here at the White House. He doesn't intend, Doge is not stopping, and he doesn't intend to stop advising the president, but he says Doge is going to take more, Tesla is going to take more of my time. So then I read this in Axios, and it's from Axios, so I take it, with a grain of salt. I've also said, Bessent seems to have kind of faded into the background a little bit. We talked this week. If you were with the show yesterday, you heard our White House conversation with Scott Bessent, Kevin Hassett, the Treasury Secretary. And I asked Kevin Hassett, sorry, I'm going to try this a third time. A little jet laggy, folks. My apologies. Kevin Hassett is part of the White House Economic Advisory Team, along with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And we talked with Kevin Hassett. I specifically asked him yesterday, is there any daylight between you guys? Are you feuding and fighting? Is it bad? And he said, listen, we're all friends. We all get, now I didn't include Elon in that. I guess I should have if I thought about it. But I was more specifically focused on Navarro, Lutnick over there at Commerce, Bessent at Treasury, and then, Hassett, who we were talking to. He said, we're in a room a lot, and we all have to get together in a room a lot, and we hash things out, and sometimes we disagree. And sometimes we agree to disagree, but we're all friends. He reminded me, and I'm glad he did, because it's worth noting, Hassett, for all the attacks on guys like Peter Navarro, who I've told you I'm not particularly nuts about as a communicator. You notice they've gone kind of quiet too. Lutnick and Navarro kind of, all the money guys that were kind of leading the charge and out on all the shows, they've all kind of quiet. Now, do you think that's a coordinated, purposeful effort, or are they doing serious business and they've just decided there's nothing to chirp about, Ed? A couple of ways to interpret it if you want. Was it purposeful, or they've got busy work to do and they can't go out yapping all the time? They got to get nose to the grindstone. How do you choose to interpret it?
I choose to interpret it that I think that they maybe have kind of stepped away and said, okay, hey, guys, Senate, we know we got to get this big, beautiful bill passed. So if you want us to stop talking, think of how much Pam Bondi we saw early, right?
That's right.
Why don't, these are finance guys, these are smart guys. So maybe they did take willingly a step back and say, all right, here we go.
So you think because of the big, beautiful bill negotiations, they don't want to poke two things I noticed about the Hassett conversation. He's the only guy that has really been sort of the public face, at least the last week, on finances. And what he said to me was, well, the Senate's going to do what the Senate's going to do, with sort of a knowing smile. And that was as much as he gave me. Many of you interpreted that to mean, there's trouble over there. There may be. I think those Senate weasels are often problematic. That's true. And then I brought up China. And if you remember, he also kind of demurred on China and said, well, I really don't want to speak to China. I don't want to make any predictions. I don't really want to. They didn't want to go there. That tells me exactly what you said. There has been a decision. Let's back away from microphones and cameras. Let's let this thing play out behind closed doors. Let's let the boys on Capitol Hill negotiate. Let's let negotiations with other foreign countries like China happen inside the walls of the White House. Let's not adjudicate all of this in front of the American people right now. So the question is, do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's a good idea to go quiet and work behind closed doors? Because what we've been accustomed to, and the reason I'm spending time on this is we have all been reveling in what feels like a perpetual state of activity. And in my point of view, Ed, the activity has kind of cooled as of the last couple of weeks. And it leads some people to feel like maybe nothing's happening. You know what I mean? I'm hearing that. People are concerned nothing's happening. I don't think that's accurate. I'm just saying the lack of public activity makes people feel like everything's ceased.
Right. No, that's a good point. I still don't want anybody coming out on the Sunday shows like a Navarro, like a Lutnick. I think there was a lot of momentum when Bessent was the messenger 2 weeks ago. I think that was the smart play. So if you're going to send somebody out, either send Bessent or Hassett and just be, kind of pull everybody else back.
So there is a New York Times story reported Friday heading into the weekend that I didn't see, but Axios picked up on it, that Bessent and Musk have been disagreeing about who should lead the IRS and got into a chest-to-chest clash with expletives flying. Now, Ed, I like Elon Musk and I like Scott Bessent. There's just something, in my opinion, I have a very difficult time getting my head wrapped around Scott Bessent going chest to chest with a guy screaming F you. How about you?
No, they're two very big brains, and they're very successful people. So no, I don't know that reporting doesn't sound correct. It doesn't sound it to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like. I'd pay good money to see Scott Bessent go chest to chest in screaming rage with someone shouting the F-bomb. I don't think that happened. But anyway, they say there's a real tense disagreement with them about who's going to lead the IRS and that Bessent won the day. Look, of course, I can't confirm anything other than what I saw. And they readily admit, look, we have disagreements, but we're all on the same page about where we want to go, and that's making America great again. I like a little healthy dissent, if in fact that's true. This is the Stigall Show. Welcome in. A couple of big pieces of news yesterday. Toyota. In West Virginia, they have announced an $88 million investment in a new transaxle assembly line. This is big news. West Virginia is considered one of the poorest states in the union, and it's now had an $88 million investment in it. Production scheduled to begin in late 2026 and will be utilized in Toyota and Lexus models to transfer power between engines, electric motors, and wheels. The news release said Toyota is also donating $100,000 to the Marshall University Advanced Manufacturing Center to help develop West Virginia's workforce. Toyota noted the Putnam County, West Virginia plant assembles engines and drivetrain components for North America operations. It employs 2,000 people, and they have now invested a total of $2.8 billion in the country. Not bad. Boeing's CEO, Kelly Ortberg, they said they're going to stop making jets for China if the airline won't accept planes. The jet maker wanted to highlight financial results in their latest quarter, showing that the company is emerging from its years-long financial crisis. Instead, their chief executive spent much of the morning talking about a pair of Boeing jets that were returned by China and issuing reassurances that tariff wars won't derail the company's turnaround. In exchanges on CNBC and on a conference call with analysts, Ortberg said that Boeing would stop making jets for China if airlines won't take the planes, and Boeing could find other buyers for jets rejected by China. Said that Chinese airlines returned the planes because of high tariffs resulting from the U.S.-China trade war. Okay. Now, there's also a story today that Bessent is getting closer, perhaps, with the team at the White House, and Trump is getting closer, perhaps, in scaling back on China tariffs. What do you make of that, Ed, if that's true? I can't confirm that's true, but there's news reporting that Trump and his financial team are thinking about easing up. And could it be, Boeing's a big player in Washington, D.C. Boeing's a big player. And if China is starting to say, we're not going to buy your jets, Boeing, I'll bet you money you got some people on Capitol Hill with deep Boeing ties banging on the door of the White House saying, hey, you want one big, beautiful bill? You stop giving Boeing such a tough time. You got to make good with China here, Trump, right now. I promise you those conversations are happening, Ed. So what do? Stay the course?
That's the thing. I think it's just more conversations between Congress and the econ team and Trump. I don't think Trump would bend like that. I just don't really believe that, you know?
I had a hard time believing it, too. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds very wrong to me that Trump would be as bold as he's been about China, only to then say in a couple of weeks later, never mind. Bessent was out there at the Institute for International Finance giving a speech yesterday demanding fixes at the World Bank. And the IMF says they're falling short. Bessent's comments offer the strongest hint yet of the White House's intention to try to nudge groups to align better with the Trump agenda. I remind you that the week began with J.D. Vance in India, telling India, join us. Your neighbors, they don't mean you any good. Join with us, You're not going to have to worry about your neighbors anymore. And by the way, we sell the top-of-the-line defense products. You're gold if you do business with us. China has been threatening the rest of the world, saying don't do business with the United States, don't engage in these trade talks with the United States, or else you're going to have problems with us. There's a big-time flex going on right now. Who's going to win it? Let's see. In 1667 here, Paulie, if we could, please. Here's a little of Besant yesterday talking about China.
Going forward, the bank must set firm graduation timelines for countries that have long since met the graduation criteria. Treating China, the second largest country in the world, as a developing country is absurd.
Now that was yesterday. Treating China as a developing country and giving them favor is absurd. Does that sound like a team that's going soft on China? It doesn't to me, Ed. It doesn't to me. I don't believe it.
I think we're onto something, man.
I'll change my mind if you can prove to me they're going soft on China, but that doesn't sound like it yesterday anyway. Globalism is dying. That's the good news. Globalism is dying. You heard earlier in the week, I'm sure, if you follow this stuff, maybe you don't. Everybody's obsessed with Klaus Schwab. If there's a name that I hear almost as much as there's one name I hear over him, it's Soros. There are two people that a lot of our audience are consumed with. George Soros and Klaus Schwab. And I'm not kidding. And you say, who is that? World Economic Forum guy. He's the founder of it, as a matter of fact. He's an octogenarian, and they believe that he is the Dr. Evil of the globe, that he's sitting. Now, and I'm not defending the guy. I don't know. When you start talking to me about Davos and the World Economic Forum, my eyes glaze over. There's nothing. I don't attend it. I know that every time that these people get together, it's just basically an excuse to bang hookers. Those stories come out every single year. They get together. It's a bunch of global elites who fly on their private jets, and they get together and they talk about how to control you and me through monetary policy and forced shots and lockdowns. And I absolutely believe there's a globalist agenda. I think that's real. Tear down borders. We're all under one universal Marxist lawfare. I absolutely believe that's real. Is Klaus Schwab the cat petting Dr. Evil in the cave orchestrating it all? I don't know. I couldn't possibly know. Again, these are things I turn to the Lord in prayer and figured that he's going to have things more well in hand than I ever will. So I can't possibly spend a ton of my time obsessing about shadowy figures like Klaus Schwab and George Soros. I do know that Trump's election is a real affront to the guys out there like Klaus Schwab, and so he got booted. And apparently now the World Economic Forum, as it turns out, has their own auditors. and old Klaus has been skimming off the top, they're accusing him. How about that? So things are unraveling quickly out there. The normal course of things, the hooker banging days might be over for the global elites in Davos. Maybe that upsets them. You got some people in Washington, D.C. very upset that Boeing can't sell their jets to China anymore. This is very upsetting. You don't have pretty boy Trudeau up there in Canada anymore. They're all mouthing off and flapping their gums. It's for people that liked business as usual in Washington, D.C., do you understand how unsettling this is? I don't know about you, but nobody likes change. Who does? You've been operating a certain way for good many years in your office, and then suddenly some new guy comes in, and he wants to leave an impression, and so he starts just doing everything different, and he brings in people to sit with you and say, now, what is it you do here exactly? And they start filling out forms and keeping files on you and checking in. Hey, let's zoom in, and I'd like to audit your time. That's very uncomfortable. I've worked with that before. I understand. But for government officials, they never deal with that, ever. They're never held accountable. Nobody asks how they're spending money. They travel on your dime wherever they wish. Nobody pays them any bit of attention at all. That's all changing, thanks to the like of people like Elon Musk and Doge. Incidentally, from just the news on that, Trump's goals for Doge remain the same, even as Elon Musk prepares to reduce his role in the project. A lot of people asking about Elon. A lot of people writing about Elon. In fact, Brad's in North Carolina. It's been a couple of days since I've taken a call. I apologize. We've been so busy on the road in D.C. Brad, thanks for waiting. I appreciate your patience. Welcome in this morning.
How are you guys this morning?
Doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. I listen to you guys every morning. It's about 6:30 here in the morning over in North Carolina. And just two things I wanted to touch on with you there. There's a lot of rumors on the social media, on Facebook, stuff like that. They're talking about eliminating the income tax, and there's a lot of circulation on that. Questions about the validity of that, and do you think that's actually a real scenario? And then my second thing is also circulatory mention of an audit on unions and the teachers' union specifically. And then all of a sudden, just like a hot rock, that dropped off the map, and I didn't see anything else about it. But I wondered to myself, how is it that they're able to evade this audit when everyone else is so susceptible,
It's interesting you bring that up. On the income tax, I would be jaw-droppingly stunned if that became a development. This week, talking with Hassett at the White House, he said that they do have a tax framework ready to go, at least on the House side. They're scoring it now. And so when I kind of pressed him on no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, he didn't say no. And he said that Trump's agenda is largely there. Now, go as far as eliminating the income tax, I would be shocked if Congress did that. I totally agree they ought to. I wish they would, but I would be shocked. But I think there's going to be a lot of aggressive tax cuts in this thing, which I'm positive about. Now, on the auditing of the teachers union thing, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, don't hold me to this, Brad, but I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes you're going to start hearing about Act Blue money that's been funneling through various teachers union organizations at the state level and the federal level. There's been a lot of shady, shadowy money illegally funneling its way to Democrats via unions, like teachers unions. And I think, I can't prove this, but I have reason to believe that Pam Bondi at DOJ, as well as Kash Patel, I believe behind the scenes they're working on those things and building a case right now. So I don't think you've heard the last of that, would be my guess.
Oh, that'd be excellent. I'd look forward to actually seeing some type of accountability get taken place there. And, when it comes to the income tax, the reality of the situation is if you're not getting taxed, I'm a father of 4 kids living in rural mountains in North Carolina. If I didn't get taxed like I do on my small business, all that money that they're taking from me, I'd turn around and put right back into my local community here anyway. You know what I mean? We're going to end up putting our money right back in the community. So.
What do you? May I ask, if you don't mind me being personal, what you do generally? You don't have to tell me specifically. But what do you do?
I actually own a painting business, all wine painting, and you guys run a commercial for us too here locally. We do all kind of interior, exterior painting. We've been in business 45 years.
Wow! Thank you for your business. First of all, I know our affiliate there really appreciates it. Thank you. May I ask, in 45 years of doing work like painting, how would you categorize it? In 45 years, it has, obviously the market takes ebbs and flows, but where do things stand for your business today versus, 45 years ago when it started?
I'll give you it in a nutshell because I know we're time crunched, but I tell you what, I'm third generation. I've produced and done more than my father and his father before him, and I can 100% attribute that to the Trump administration the first time around. We witnessed what I call the massive exodus to the East Coast. I believe all the people are leaving the cities in the California and the East Coast, or West Coast rather, and they're moving to the East Coast, the rural Appalachian mountain strains. We're seeing, population town 5,000 go to 25,000 in 4 years. I mean, it's just an explosion. They've cut the roads 2 lanes into 4 lanes here to make way for people coming here. So it's a massive growth, but all that to say this, the Biden administration came in, and the wave from the Trump administration and the way that economy was, just that wave carried me through practically all the way into the end of the Biden administration, and I noticed it got a little skinny there. As soon as Trump rolled back in office, here came the U-Hauls again, here came the migrators again, and, it's people, they're looking to retire with large amounts of money, and they're looking for this area specifically because it's low crime, low violence. It's beautiful here. It's in the middle of the Nantahala National Forest, if that tells you anything.
I even hear the beautiful birds chirping. It sounds picturesque, as a matter of fact. I hear it there where you're at right now. So you're saying that business for you is strong. It's booming. And you feel it's still strong.
At this point right now, to be honest with you, I couldn't take on more work if I had to. My biggest problem is employees. I can't find more. Majority of my employees are family, and we're a family-owned and operated business, but being that it's a rural area, a lot of the youth graduates here. They take off and they go out to big cities and big opportunities. You know what I mean? So it's hard to find anything.
I do, of course.
Yeah.
So when you hear people saying, "Oh, people are spooked and getting glum about Trump's economy and his economic agenda," you, as a guy who's a third-generation owner of a small business in North Carolina, say what?
I say it's rhetoric. I say there's plenty of work out there for those who want to go do it. I say my entire generation. I'm 40 years old as of March. My entire generation was told, go to college, get on a computer, get a desk job. I did just that. I left my family business, went and got a marketing degree, did digital analytics for a company making several $1 million a year. Felt really underappreciated, came right back to painting, and I've made more money doing this just on my own than I ever would have imagined. So I say if you have motivation and you're ready to get out there and get it and you're willing to work, a lot of these people, they want to take easy jobs and jump on a computer or be a psychologist or something like that. And I'm not to say those jobs aren't, you need those, but people need to work too. We need people out there doing plumbing, carpentry, flooring, electric. I mean, those trade jobs are something that America needs to build back better. That's what we need to do.
And Brad, you've clearly proven there's money in it if you want to go get it, right? That's what you're saying to me today.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brad, very sincerely, first of all, if I could get your email address, I would love to make you an honorary member of the Harumph Society if you're not already. Would you mind? Could I get your email and add you to my list?
Excellent. You got it. Excellent. Yeah.
All right, brother. We'll put you on hold. Thank you. And thank you for your business. Listen, I want to tell you something about guys like Brad. As far as I'm concerned, now I've been a broadcaster. I've been in radio exclusively for more or less 25 years. Most of my career and adult life has been spent in broadcast commercial radio. And when I specifically got into talk radio, nobody, and I mean nobody, in corporate America wanted to spend a nickel with conservatives on talk radio. In fact, in commercial talk radio, I don't know if salespeople are going to mind me bringing this up or not, but I think it's long since been out of the bag. There used to be a dictate from ad agencies. So let's just say XYZ Cola Company has a marketing department, and they pay a marketing firm to place advertisements for XYZ Cola Company on television and radio and other places. There were edicts. Do not buy. These ad agencies had very specific, you can put your ads on commercial music radio, you can put it on NPR or wherever, you can put it on, local news. Do not put it on talk radio. Don't. And for years, people in my business tried to figure out how to get around what was this corporate stand down of spending money with our radio stations. And let me tell you who came to the rescue. Guys like Brad. Men and women who own small businesses like Brad, who are out there hustling and busting it every day and building a business and have more business than they can handle, started turning to shows like this one on local stations all over the country and advertising their services. And guess what? Conservative audiences responded. And so I'm so thankful to Brad. And I'm thankful to people like Brad who have kept people like me and many, many hundreds, thousands probably of my colleagues and their families with an income because they believe in the product and they believe in the message. Sincerely. Guys like Brad mean more to me than I can say. Thank you for your sponsorship of our local affiliate there in North Carolina, Brad. Giant Ferris wheel there in Orlando. I don't know what that is. Never been to it. That has nothing to do with the theme parks there, does it? We're watching on the Salem News Channel, guys. Those of you who are listening, thank you for listening wherever you listen. If you watch on the Salem News Channel, we've got this live bump shot of a giant Ferris wheel in Orlando, Florida. I see it when I've been through there, not for vacation, but just for business. I see that giant Ferris wheel, but I don't know where it is. Every town, Kansas City's got a giant Ferris wheel now. I guess every town needs a giant Ferris wheel or you're not cool. Is that it? Ed, does Philly? I don't think Philadelphia has a giant Ferris wheel yet. Maybe they need to get one.
We don't. You're right. What the heck?
Put one there in Love Park. Get it up above City Hall, right up above Billy Penn's hat there.
With these other cities,
that'd be quite a view.
I think with these other cities, they usually put it near a body of water, right? So like Chicago's is Navy Pier, and then
see, there's another one. Yes, I've been in that one. Yep.
Yeah. So Philly needs to put that on Delaware Ave.
Check. Somebody call Sherelle Parker at once. Tell her we need a giant Ferris wheel. All right. 855 Stigall's our telephone number if you want to get in here. To the White House lawn yesterday, Donald Trump out there looking up in the sky, pointing with a couple of guys. What's he doing? Well, if you've been to Mar-a-Lago or seen Mar-a-Lago before, I've been exactly once. And the thing that is unmistakable when you go to Mar-a-Lago, it's a beautiful place, it's a historic building, and it's cool because you go through all kinds of security and you're like, wow, I'm in the fortress of Donald Trump's house. And among the many cool things you notice immediately when you get on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago, an enormous, the biggest American flag you've ever seen. And I'm not kidding. I've never seen an American flag on a pole as big as this pole and this flag. And Trump has decided, I'm going to buy 2 of them, and I'm going to plant them right here in the White House lawns, both north and south. 1670, boys.
We're putting up a beautiful, almost 100-foot tall American flag on this side and another one on the other side, 2 flags, top of the line. And they've needed flagpoles for 200 years. It was something I've often said, they don't have a flagpole per se. So we're putting one right where you saw us, and we're putting another one on the other side on top of the mounds. It's going to be 2 beautiful poles. Paid for by Trump. They arrive in about a week or so.
Now, I can guarantee you there's objection to this. I can guarantee you that there are people saying, I can't believe Trump would put something so garish in front of the beautiful White House. Garish? I promise you there are people saying it. I'll bet you. In fact, I'll bet you before this story is over and Trump is done planting those flagpoles in the lawn of the White House, go ahead and make book on it. We're going to read about some judge or some park service or some government agency suing to stop Trump from installing this on White House grounds with his own money. Just make book on it. When did he say they're coming? Ed, soon,
2
right?
weeks.
A week or so?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, man.
Okay, make book on it. Someone is going to try to stop him from putting these giant flags and flagpoles on the White House lawn. And when you stop and think about it, does that not baffle you? That hadn't occurred to me. Now, there is a flag atop the actual house, pretty small. Is that not baffling that there is no real presence of an American flag on the grounds of the actual White House other than on top of the building? That kind of blew my mind until Trump called attention to it yesterday, Ed.
Yeah, no, that's definitely baffling. But what I'm more worried about, to be honest, is that, the next radical, this way that the Democrats are trending, the next radical that gets in there is going to put, the new crazy pride flag up there in the American flag's place.
Yeah. Yeah, who dares tear it down, by the way? Who tears down the flag? Or who hoists another flag? As for Trump, other things, he was signing some executive orders yesterday, and he continues to say, listen, you may not hear about it, you may not see it, but a lot of world leaders, 1676, a lot of world leaders want to talk to Trump about making a deal.
There's a lot of leaders attending the Pope's funeral who also said they'd like to meet with you while you're there. Do you have any meetings set up?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of meetings set up. I don't know if I can do it. Do you want to help me out, fellas? I got a lot of meetings. I got every leader in the world, which tells you that we have a good product. It's called the United States of America, and it's great. And these people know about it better than anybody in this room. But we have a great place, and it should be a lot greater. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it greater than ever before. It's very simple.
How about on the idea of Elon? He didn't, maybe there's some distance between him and Elon. Elon taking a back seat, as I opened with. Is there any daylight between the two of them? 1678. Here's what he had to say about Elon.
Elon Musk said he'll be stepping back from his work with Doge a little bit and only dedicating maybe a day or two a week to it. How long would you like to see that continue, and how involved would you like to see him continue to be after?
Well, first of all, I can't speak more highly about any individual. He's an incredible guy. He's a brilliant guy. He's a wonderful person. I've seen him with his family. I've seen him with a lot of his children. He's got a lot of children. He treats them good. He loves his children. But he's a brilliant guy. And he was a tremendous help, both in the campaign and in what he's done with Doge. And, we're talking about almost $200 million and rising fast, because many of the things that we were looking at are now being found out to be fact.
Yeah. So that's just some of it. He was busy yesterday. He gave a press avail there in the Oval. He was out of the White House lawn looking at flags and, talking with the White House grounds crew about where he wants the flags. And then he called an impromptu press conference out there. You should have seen the video of the press scattering. He made himself available on the lawn, and they're running halfway across the lawn of the White House to go see him. They can't get enough of talking to Trump. There's probably never been a bigger focus on health right now. The MAHA movement, with the focus on eating healthy for a change. Very good news for my sponsors and friends at Balance of Nature. We have it in our cabinet. Take it every day. Their method of producing vibrant nutritional supplements is second to none. A lot of others use chemicals and additives. Balance of Nature is made solely from whole food. Other methods, they sacrifice nutritional quantity for the sake of profits and volume. But Balance of Nature, they have a very advanced vacuum cold process. So they freeze dry the fruits and the vegetables, and they retain 93% of their nutritional value. A lot of the other nutrients that you might see out there are lucky to salvage 30%. Balance of Nature packs a nutritional punch is the point. That's the whole reason we take Balance of Nature, and I think you ought to as well. You'll get the most nutrition for the sake of your health. And right now, if you use my name, Chris, as your discount code, you'll get 35% off, plus free shipping and the money-back guarantee. Call 800-2468-751. 800-2468-751. Use my name, Chris, as your promo code. You can also log on to balanceofnature.com and use the name Chris as your promo code. You'll get 35% off plus free shipping. Make America healthy again, you bet. It starts with Balance of Nature. Promo code Chris, balanceofnature.com.
Hey there, it's Chris, back on the phone with my dentist and friend Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, Pennsylvania, just off the Blue Route with new technology. You have not just new associates, but they brought new technology into the business to make it a little easier for patients.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time in dentistry. We have now introduced a three-dimensional x-ray called a CBCT scan in our office, which allows us to diagnose and things earlier for patients. My daughter is placing a lot of implants in the past had referred out. It's now being done in-house. And we also, we've been using dental or computer scanners for taking impressions for crowns for about the last 2 to 3 years. We now have introduced the next step, which is a milling machine, and we can now make crowns in the office. Things can be completed in the same day as opposed to having a temporary crown put on and 3 weeks later coming back and having a permanent crown put on. It's really a game changer, and it's a time saver for our patients to not have to make multiple visits to the office.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com.
Glad to have you along this morning, folks. Welcome in to this Thursday edition of the Stigall Show. Beautiful shot of your nation's capital. Just there for the last couple of days. Headed back there next week, as a matter of fact. Monday will be, actually Monday through Wednesday of next week, I'll be back at our D.C. studios because we're heading to Capitol Hill to talk with some members of Congress. They want to talk. And I take that as a very good sign, as I told you yesterday. If House Republicans want to talk, that means they are, in fact, I think, as Hassett told us at the White House this week, they're close to a deal on the big, beautiful bill. Or at least they're close to their framework being done, and they've got agreement amongst their House colleagues, which is a huge development if true. And so that tells me they want to, 1, brag about it, 2, they want to start laying some pressure on the Senate to join them. And from what I understand, everybody's misgivings are with the Senate and whether they will join the House's ambitions in really making meaningful cuts. The Senate wants to do something much, much less. And they want to, remember, we talked with people like Senator Blackburn and others, not calling her out, just saying it was always from the beginning their position that they wanted to pass 2 or 3 separate bills. They did not like the idea of one big, beautiful bill, and they told us so. So it wasn't like they were hiding it. They have been against the idea of trying to get all of this crammed into one bill at once. And the House is ready to do it. They're gung-ho. I mean, it could be really big stuff. You get rid, I'm telling you, you get rid of tax on Social Security. You get rid of taxes on overtime and tips. You've changed the political ballgame forever. You have become, Republicans can cement themselves as the party of the, quote, little guy for the rest of their days. This is the kind of stuff that Democrats 30, 40, 50 years ago would have advocated, to be quite frank. You know, the people that hung pictures of JFK on their wall, this is what they thought they were getting with Democrats like that back then. They thought they were getting politicians and leaders who were actually going to help them make a buck or two and put coin in their pocket and lower their taxes. And Democrats didn't provide that. And in fact, over the last 40, 50, 60 years, Democrats have just become increasingly more radical. They don't even have an identity anymore. It's interesting that Fauci is back in the news, too. He's making a lot of news, as a matter of fact, for the amount of money he's making. I don't know if you've heard this. Fauci's first year of retirement, a money-making bonanza. Who pays this guy to show up and talk? I know in St. Louis, university there paid him a ton of money to come to the campus. Somebody sent me a flyer from the campus there. I think, who was it? I don't want to say the university's name because I'm not sure I remember. I'll have to go look it up. But they said, can you believe this? They're paying a ton of money here to bring Fauci in. I can't believe it. Like I'm picturing sending one of my kids to college and knowing that some of the funds that I'm spending to send my kid there paid for Fauci to come speak. That just curdles my blood. Former White House chief medical advisor Anthony Fauci earned $3.5 million last year of retirement from government, $3.5 million, and may have misled Congress about the date of his departure, new documents reveal at the Daily Caller. Fauci received several six-figure deposits through 2023, totaling $1.15 million, according to Open the Books, a financial disclosure watchdog group. The documents do not describe the source of the deposits. Remember at EPA, Lee Zeldin, he said that when he got to the office, they found that the Biden administration had parked all of this earmarked money for, I can't remember the analogy he used, but they basically put it away in an ATM for, I don't know, NGOs or others to continue to withdraw from it. Your money and my money. The EPA carved it out and tucked it away where it could be accessed by I don't know who, and Lee Zeldin found that it was something like $20 billion. It was an insane amount of money. He found it and clawed it back. So now this watchdog group, Open the Book, says several six-figure deposits through 2023 wound up in his bank account, and nobody knows where they came from. Ed, doesn't that sound an awful lot like the kind of stuff Elon Musk has been uncovering with USAID and other places? Sure does to me.
Absolutely. This is it's not just Fauci. Fauci, I guess, has just been caught. Right. I mean, this is ridiculous. Yes. I'm tired of this crap, man.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Fauci sold his memoir to a subsidiary of Penguin Random House for a reported $5 million in March of 2023. That news coincided with March 2023 congressional memo showing Fauci had privately prompted an influential paper dismissing the theory COVID resulted from a lab accident. And, of course, now the CIA and official Washington has summarized that, yes, in fact, COVID did come from the Wuhan coronavirus lab. As Jon Stewart famously said to Stephen Colbert, if there's an outbreak of chocolatey goodness in Hershey, Pennsylvania, we probably understand where it came from. Similarly, we all understand now that the coronavirus came from the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. So the guy's a fraud. He has made gazillions of dollars. The highest paid government official, more than the president of the United States, more than anybody. Nobody made more. Do you know that? I'm not sure everybody does. Fauci was the highest paid taxpayer salary on government payrolls, period. Nobody above him. For what? For what legacy? The shot? Boy, I tell you what, the news on the shot continues to get worse and worse. And I'll get into that in a minute. Pete Hegseth was addressing this yesterday. He went to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, the Army War College, where he welcomed troops back after they had been kicked out of service for refusing that stupid shot. 1657, if you would. Paulie, take a listen to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
We're also welcoming back former service members who were wrongly forced to leave the military. More than 8,700 service members were involuntarily separated for not taking an experimental COVID-19 vaccine. Others were more informally pushed out or decided to get out. We are welcoming actively back those warriors of conscience. We've sent letters out. We're seeking them out. We want them back. They never should have been forced to come back quickly. Personnel and Readiness Department is working in real time to make that process more and more efficient, more and more direct every single day.
And at one point, I remind you, the guy we were pretending to be president and his Marxist team of people around him that were actually pulling all the strings on that old puppet, I remind you that once upon a time, they were going to try to take your job from you via the Labor Department if you didn't take that shot. Remember that? I do, and I'll never forget it. And I don't ever want to hear a single Democrat talk about the Trump administration and their fascism ever again. Because if you remember that, and you remember only that, that's all you ever need to remember. The federal government was going to try to force you to take an unproven, untested shot to keep your job. They were going to use an agency of the government to hold your employer hostage and force you to take that stupid shot or cost you your job. And I came within this much. It was this close, folks. I was super close to walking away from a job simply because my employer was going to have no choice. The federal government was about to force my company to force me to take a shot, and I said, then that's going to force me to leave this show. And thank goodness at the 11th hour, the Supreme Court came riding into the rescue. But that's how close we were. I don't want to hear anything about authoritarian and Donald Trump. The notion that this federal government could force you to inject yourself with something that you don't want is stunning as a means to keep your job? What the hell was that? And now, from the Washington Post, who should get the COVID booster? That advice might change soon. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention might soon limit its guidance for who should receive a booster shot. The booster's a joke. It's an utter joke. Booster. The more people got those stupid boosters, the more they got COVID. I know somebody close to me who continues almost every season to believe she's got to go out and get the damn booster. And every time she does, she gets sick. Much like the flu shot. And it's interesting. Sorry, that's just my point of view. I realize people differ on that, but I've never known anybody that doesn't get the flu shot and gets sick. 2 service members have been denied religious exemptions to the flu shot and are at risk of being forced out of the military still at present after they previously fought on the COVID shot. So even so, with Secretary Hegseth standing up for people refusing the COVID shot, it still sounds like the Defense Department is forcing flu shots, and you got to take it if you don't want it. I realize the science differs on that too, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving advice here. I'm just talking about me personally. I don't like the idea of being forced to take anything. I'm just generally pretty uncomfortable with that. And you ought to be as well. Secretary Kennedy is now considering taking the COVID shot off the recommended child shot list. As well he should. The CDC added the COVID shot to its immunization schedule for children in 2023. Now Kennedy Jr. is reporting considered removing the COVID shot from the CDC, their recommended vaccine schedule for kids. The possible change reported this week in Politico. Children were never in danger from COVID. It is a shot that does not work. It is experimental at best, and no child should be given it. And certainly no one should lose their job for not wanting it. But Dr. Fauci's terribly rich promoting it, isn't he? Thanks, Pfizer. It's the Stigall Show. How do you do? Boy, it's getting warm out there. I mean, I don't want to complain. It's great fishing and golfing weather, but it's really coming on. I was looking at the extended forecast for D.C. next week, which is where we're going to be again, back in the swamp. It's going to feel swampy. It's going to get near 90 degrees next weekend already. 90 degrees.
Terrible.
Ooh.
Oh, that's what a horrible place to be, 90 degrees.
Yeah. Sweaty congressman. Ooh. Anyway, that's where we're headed. Back to the swamp. The 100 Days of Trump is officially next week. We have some interesting programming for you next week, as a matter of fact. On Tuesday, Larry Elder and I will be on the Salem News Channel and on great Salem radio station affiliates all over the country, 8 p.m. Staying up late with Larry. 8 p.m. Eastern, we will be live. Odds are if you hear the Larry Elder Show, then you're going to hear this show. You can also follow it there on the Salem News Channel. Get the snc.tv. You can go to the app and get the Salem News Channel app. Wherever you want to go to watch this thing, take it along with you and click Watch Live. But Larry and I are going to be talking with various officials. He and I are going to be pontificating a little bit. Always enjoy catching up with the sage. But we'll have some interviews from Capitol Hill. Great show coming up for you on Tuesday. And I'll be in the swamp Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, where we're going to be heading to Capitol Hill to talk to some of these Republicans who say they're getting close, supposedly, to one big, beautiful bill. There's a lot of people that, we had a caller earlier ask me about what do I think the likelihood of no income tax is. Guy called Clandestine on X, pretty big account. I just noticed he wrote this today because I have heard, and you've heard me acknowledge on the show, that people feel like maybe they're sensing easing up by the Trump administration, or you're sensing maybe things have slowed down, or maybe the media, is working overtime to thwart their efforts or whatever. This guy Clandestine, I think, puts it in an interesting way on his post. He says, "Do you realize how good we have it? Trump is canceling World War III while trying to reset global trade and get rid of the income tax." There that is again. So there seems to be a healthy belief out there that Trump is about to get rid of income tax. And I write a little about this. I've been writing a little about this tomorrow. At the Harump Society, if you're not a member, I hope you'll become one, because I'm going to talk about this in my monologue and explore it a little bit. There is a strain of thought that the country was, in fact, once funded through tariffs exclusively. The income tax is not something that the founders came up with, folks. That's a rather, by historical standards, that's a pretty modern day invention. The early 1900s. The income tax hasn't been around since the country was founded. The country was paid for by tariffs previously, and many people think that is Trump's vision for the future, that all of our funding needs from government will be paid for by tariffs. Get rid of the income tax model, and then you just pay one flat or fair tax. And then I know there's huge debate about that, and I do not want to get into it because that is tireless and unceasing, and people's passions run deep about what would replace it, if anything would replace it. But some say, let's just have effectively a national sales tax, where when you go out and you buy something, there's going to be a nice tax slapped on it. But that gives you the choice of participating or not. You don't have to go buy that boat with the big tax on it if you don't want to. And again, I know that there are healthy disputes about that. Others say, let's come up with one tax rate and apply it across the board to everybody. Whether you're a billionaire or whether you're making minimum wage, all of us pay the same percentage. And I'll take your temperature on that while we're at it. You care about that? Like, if you had to pick, if we could wave a magic wand and get rid of the income tax, what would you prefer? A national sales tax, if you will, on products and goods you buy? Or everyone pays the same percentage on their wages no matter what you earn?
I would like to get rid of the income tax. I'm in favor of that 100%.
Sure.
But I haven't experienced it the other way either. So I don't know if you're jacking up the taxes on everything else. I mean, that's scary.
If you paid no income tax, would you mind paying more for your goods at the store?
I wouldn't
Question?
mind. Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Yeah, depending on how much.
Right. So anyway, Clandestine here on X says, RFK Jr. taking chemicals out of our food and combating big pharma. Tulsi releasing files and catching leakers. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Hegseth reinstating service members who refused COVID shots and removing wokeness from our military. Kash Patel, Pam Bondi over at DOJ, rounding up violent criminals, gang members, Tesla terrorists, and more. Elon is almost finished building Doge and is exposing hundreds of billions of dollars in government waste. The Trump administration officially declaring COVID a man-made pathogen, and Fauci lied about it. Anyone saying nothing is happening couldn't be more wrong. That's one man's take there on X. I thought it was an interesting one. I saw our buddy Seb Gorka in the White House yesterday. He was in the Oval with Trump and some veterans. Paulie, this is 1677, a group of veterans, some of whom have, they've lost limbs. It's always so emotional when you see men and women who have gone to great lengths. Some obviously have lost their lives, but some have come very, very close and have been grievously wounded. And President Trump honoring them yesterday in the Oval. Here's a little of that.
There's no group of people more important than the people in this room. And I'm not talking about the media. I'm talking about these people right here. There's no group, and they're going to be taken really well care of. It's very important to me.
Yeah, Doug Collins, great friend of this show, spoke with him a couple of days ago at the White House as well. I know he means it. Veterans know he means it. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaffer knows he means it. We are so grateful when Tony can make time for us this morning. Welcome back, my friend. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to be here. I'm wearing my Hillary wins spoiler alert T-shirt just for you this morning. So.
Predictions past coming true. It's always fun to revisit.
That's a great artifact from 2016. That's right. So Pennsylvania, I think this is made by a group in Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact. So just say it.
Pete Hegseth was here in Pennsylvania today, in Carlisle yesterday, welcoming back the men and women who were cooked, they killed off, thrown out because they didn't want to take that stupid shot. That's a huge moment, in my opinion. Could I ask you about, because there is just it's a tiny issue, and I don't really want to go into flu shot debates and whatever, but there are, I guess, a couple of folks that don't want the flu shot, and DOD is saying you got to take that or you're out. What do you think about all that generally?
So I'm against any required inoculation. I think I've made this public disclosure before. I was required take the anthrax vaccine before I went to Afghanistan. Spoiler alert, I didn't take it, nor would I have taken it. And so it's like, I don't need it. There is no anthrax there. And so I'm just against any, unless there's a specific medical need, like you really, we know that Ebola's there and we got this thing that's going to give you some sort of an edge to it. I'm not going to do it. So I fundamentally don't believe that you do that. I came up as a kid, fully vaccinated and everything, and I was fine. But I find it interesting. My friend Cherie Curry posted something yesterday, a hearing regarding the CDC and the Amish. You have a lot of Amish in your state. You know that, Chris, right? They make some great furniture.
Pennsylvania, yeah.
So
did you
know that your government's been studying them for the last 20 years? And you know what that study's figured out? Any guesses?
They're healthy as horses.
And no people on the spectrum. So, and the articulated reason that the CDC won't publish their findings is because it undermines their theory of medicine. So, when you have nobody with autism, nobody, they can't find it. And you see our society, it's ratcheting up. There's something there, and they don't want to admit that maybe these people avoiding everything may have something in a way of an answer that we don't. Just say it. So.
I will say, regardless of what you think about it, and I just talked about this in an earlier segment, I will never, for the rest of my life, I will never forget or forgive or get over the fact that Joe Biden's White House and government tried to force every last one of us to get that stupid shot or lose our job or lose our means of income, Tony Schaffer. Don't ever lecture me about Trump and fascism again. I don't ever want to hear that again. Okay.
No,
anyway,
and then we're supposed to forget they were doing it too. It's like, no,
that's right.
It was, So anyway,
they all got rich. Let me pivot to this situation. I don't really. Again, I hate admitting this, but I've stopped paying attention to Russia and Ukraine. I've just stopped paying attention to it. And so when something flares up, and I see that Zelensky is mouthed off about something, and then Trump gets mad at him, and then Russia says, okay, we'll have a deal, and then Russia strikes Ukraine. It's like, it's musical chairs or something. My eyes are glazing over. Help me understand it, where we are with it, and if it's important to us.
Well, it's important, but our own media, even our side of the media, ain't picking it up properly. The New York Post has an editorial today saying President Trump's putting Ukraine in a bad position. It's like, not once, Chris, do they say anything about us, the United States, or our interest. I mean, not once. I read this carefully. It's like, well, where do they get the part about us? It's like, So I think a lot of people feel like you. It's like, it's over there and we're here, and it's tragic, but it's not us. And so I think that's the issue. It's not us. And President Trump has said this. Speaking of Joe Biden, he said this is Joe Biden's war, and it's a mess. And the reason that Zelensky on the Ukrainian side won't give in is because he is being enriched. Let me be blunt. He makes money off death. That's what it is. And any sane man would say, it's time to head for the exit. It's time to settle things. There's no way we're ever going to retake Crimea and the other 4 disputed locations. It's not going to happen. But instead, he's doubling, tripling down. This is Dr. Strange level insane by Zelensky. The Russians are saying, hey, we're open to ending this. We want to get back into the international market. But if we don't get it, if we don't come to a peace deal, we're going to win.
What is your understanding? Because I think I forget, Tony Schaffer, exactly Russia's position, or if they have one, or have they articulated it? Do we understand it? Because Rubio said something to the effect of, we're going to give this one more go, and then we're done talking.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was frustration with Russia and Ukraine, just Ukraine. Like, what does Russia want in this? We know Ukraine thinks they want all their territory back, or at least Zelensky does, and that's not going to happen, as you just said. So what's Russia want?
Right. There's 2 competing frameworks on the table. One is Minsk 2, kind of a framework, a ceasefire, freezing everything in place like it did back in, I think, 2015, 2014, somewhere a while back when they had the first ceasefire. Never going to fly with the Russians. Russians are wanting to not, they don't have to put up with that. They're not. The other one then is Istanbul 2. Istanbul 2 basically gives, was what they was about to sign off on about 3 months into the war, to stop the war back then. Basically, Russians get to keep what they have. They get to have essentially elections, free elections to see which side the people pick. And Crimea comes off the table. Crimea is pretty much de facto Russian, and we're done. That's where it ends. So that's what the Russians may be open to. And the Europeans are pushing Minsk 2. We're kind of pushing the latter. Istanbul too. So at this point, there's a lot of daylight between both sides. And Rubio walked away the other day. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
Chris, he basically said, I'm out of here. The moment he left, the Europeans left, and all was left was General Keith Kellogg with a lot of people hanging out, just talking. There was nobody there to make decisions, so it was bad.
As for China, it was notable to me this week, J.D. Vance, maybe I'm making more of it than I should, but I thought J.D. Vance's speech in India, and we actually were able to jip a little of it here live in the morning because of the time zone difference. I thought what he was saying to India was really aggressively friendly. Like, come aboard, join us. We want to militarize you. We want to make weapons for you. Your neighbors don't mean you any good. He didn't say that, but that's the way I took it. Like, join us. Let's lock and load so that your neighbors aren't a problem for either of us. Was that what he was doing? That was my interpretation.
Yes, the most logical counter to China is not us. It's for India. India, they're a democracy. They have a large population, just like China. They're local. They are right there with China. They're in the same neighborhood, and they have the same economic potential as China. And oh, by the way, they're better off with more natural resources. They've got, I think, more rare earths that we can work with them on too. So the bottom line is they'd be a better partner across the board, to include militarily, because there's the Straits of Malacca, which is where all the oil goes through to China. So they got to come back down and around under India up to China to get oil. So we can both kind of make the lives of Chinese interesting regarding oil flow.
Yes.
So they
as I understand it, and Tony, as I understand it, India came to the table right away on this trade stuff.
They did.
Like, I guess we have one of the most.
I was about to say that. So did Vietnam. Vietnam is another natural. Vietnam is another natural enemy. If you remember, right after the Vietnam War ended, the Chinese invaded Vietnam and lost, and so those two countries can become powerhouses that eclipse China if we play our cards right. And I think they both want to come aboard. So just saying.
Let me ask you then quickly about China specifically. There seems to be this talk. I think it's media perpetuated. I don't think it has anything to do with Trump yet. Bessent made comments yesterday that don't suggest to me they're going soft, but there's a lot of media reporting Trump's about to back off on China. Do you believe that? I don't believe that. I see no evidence of that yet. But
I don't believe it for a minute. Not for a minute. There's too many things at stake. China is still very fragile internally. there's a lot of economic forces. The People's Liberation Army is not happy with Xi on a number of things. Xi is kind of looking at how he can continue to keep the military focused. You keep the military focused on Taiwan. They want Taiwan back, and they've never changed that. And they're still looking at all options to include military options. So, no, I don't think there's going to be any diminution of pressure on China at all at this point.
With China threatening the rest of the world this week, too, I found that interesting. They said, hey, any of you people that do trade deals with the United States, you're on notice from us. Does that work? Do they strike fear in the hearts of other countries around the world?
Well, no, not when there's options. Remember, Chris, we're coming out of a period where the United States was the worst partner regarding options. You had Jake Sullivan, Tony Blinken. You know, I think I told you before, did you know in college when he was playing guitar, Tony Blinken's nickname was Spanky Banana? Did you know that? I don't. That's a really interesting piece of trivia. Yeah, I don't know. It may be true, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, back to the story. With those knuckleheads in place, nobody wanted to partner with us. With the economic policies, which were essentially failing completely, we were the worst possible partner. Now we're a good partner. We're a good prospect. People want to deal with us. So I think the more China threatens, like, really? Okay, well, you can threaten all you want, but the Americans are back, and I think Donald Trump's leadership exudes that. And by the way, we have talked about this before. President Trump links national security to economic prosperity, unlike other presidents. So what he's doing is going to be kind of seeing how we can build this up in process regarding alliances, regarding economic interaction, as well as military build-up and alliances as well. So he's going to do both.
And Tony, 10 seconds. Pete Hegseth, he's good, right? Everybody in the White House backs him. It's all made up, this trying to run him out thing?
Yeah, it's all made up on their side. I have not heard a word from anybody I trust on the Trump side about that. Nope, okay. And I have some pretty good sources. So, no, everything's good.
Got it. Tony Schaffer, we always appreciate you. Love you, brother. He's Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaffer, author of Operation Dark Heart, Herb London Center. Here's the other reason I don't believe for a second the Trump administration is thinking about easing up on China. Just two stories. One I sat on for a little bit. Another one, actually, these are both stories I sat on. I just kind of kept around just because I had a hunch China was going to come back up. And so with these stories that we're about to go soft on China and tariffs, I don't buy it. I see no evidence of it. Bessent yesterday certainly doesn't sound like they're easing up on China yet. And now a couple of stories I'll just call your attention to. I would have brought them up with Tony earlier. China is recruiting current and former U.S. government officials as spies. Now, if that's true, I sure hope Pam Bondi is looking into that. I trust that she is. China is using consulting firms, headhunters, and think tanks to aggressively recruit current and former U.S. officials as spies, a federal counter-spy unit says. The National Counterintelligence and Security Center stated in a one-page warning earlier this month, quote, foreign intelligence entities, particularly those in China, are targeting current and former U.S. government employees for recruitment by posing as consulting firms, corporate headhunters, think tanks, and other entities on social and professional networking sites. The FBI echoed the warning on X. China and other foreign intelligence entities are targeting former and current government employees on social and professional networking sites. The FBI is the lead federal agency in charge of domestic counterintelligence. Chinese spies are using sophisticated deception ploys, including job offers and other virtual appeals, to target people with government experience who are seeking employment. Hell, I have every reason to believe they were paying the former president of the United States and his son straight up. I mean, you don't get a Chinese spy balloon floating over the country for 8 days uninterrupted if you're not buying off Americans inside our own country. People in charge of being able to shoot that thing down. Mark Milley, our former Joint Chiefs chair, who basically called China up and said, hey, don't worry about Trump. If he starts to pop off, I know what to do. Don't sweat Trump. I got him. Milley says to Trump, or says to China in a phone call. Do I think there are bad people in government right now or formerly of government that would go to work or are currently working for China? Absolutely. Hello, Tim Walz. I will be forever convinced Tim Walz is a Chinese spy. Can't prove it. I'd be forever convinced it was the case. If you told me it was true, I would have no trouble believing you. I'll just say that. That's my personal feeling about the matter. I don't know for a fact. I guess I have to say this legally. I don't know for a fact Tim Walz is a Chinese spy. I just have a deep, deep, deep suspicion. And I have a very, very funny feeling I'd be proven right if we dug around in his finances a little bit. He spent an awful lot of time living in and teaching about and talking about China. So do I think there are U.S. officials that would be on the take or are on the take for China? Absolutely, I do. Here's the other one. Chinese-linked satellite company is helping the Houthis target American ships. The communist country's military is providing imagery to Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis to help target American warships and commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Included are their spying in our, domestic universities. Included in this, it's a laundry list of horribles. The trade imbalance, of course, the stealing of intellectual property. China's a bad actor, a really bad actor. And I cannot believe these reports that Trump and Bessent are now thinking about pulling back on certain tariffs with China. I just don't believe it. I've heard no evidence to support it, but I know there is a deep desire by the markets. I know there is a deep desire by official Washington that Trump ease up on China. And for that reason, I hope he is still foot on the gas pedal with them. They're bad actors. They mean us harm. They mean a global takeover. It is their desire. They want to be the lone superpower. That is their design and desire. They must be stopped. And I was thrilled to see what J.D. Vance was doing in India this week. All right, 855 Stigall to get in here today. Let's go to Long Island, talk to Claudia. Claudia, I'm sure glad you called. Good morning. Welcome in.
Hi, how you doing? Love your show. Love your take on most things. You mentioned
I'll
Dr.
take
Fauci.
most.
You mentioned
Thank
Dr.
you.
Fauci, and I'm so glad that someone else is still irate when they hear his name because of what all transpired during that time. I'm still unable to get a job in healthcare as an MRI tech. They refused to have me come back during the COVID epidemic when everyone was going into the hospitals, and the only way I could get back is if I were to take those vaccines. Even today, I get calls daily, texts daily looking for healthcare workers. But the first question I tell them is that I haven't been vaccinated. And then the first question they ask me is, am I willing to? So they're still saying, they're not saying it, but they're saying it.
So we have this massive healthcare shortage. People like you, we need desperately in healthcare, and they're still turning people like you away because you haven't taken that stupid shot. They're still insisting on it.
Correct. And then I have to get the pneumonia vaccine as well, too, which I've been healthy and exercising all my life, avoiding disease. And then I have to go and, forcing my children, who I took under my wing in my entire life, of having them be healthy and active, and then they have to get inoculated. Like, it was just so surreal and sci-fi movie-like, and this guy is still. I can't. When you mentioned how much the highest paid, and took away everyone's jobs, I haven't been able to work since COVID. I had to go buy a home in Costa Rica and rent it out as an Airbnb instead because I didn't have any other options. Nobody else would take me in besides the hit and run type of facilities.
While he's getting millions of dollars in bank deposits. Doesn't that make you feel great? Yeah. Claudia, thank you. Look, I'm sorry you're going through that. We're going to please stay in touch. It's outrageous to me. I mean, there's a shortage of nurses. We're turning people away because they haven't taken that stupid shot that's now proven to be completely ineffective. I want to welcome aboard the show our new sponsors at Texas Bullion Exchange. Great guys. If you go to buytexasgold.com, you will see my smiling mug right there at the top of the page. Since leaving the gold standard in 1971, the dollar has lost over 90% of its purchase power. Now, if you think about that, what used to cost $1 now takes $10 or more. That's pretty stunning. And if you think about gold, on the other hand, it's held strong. It's increased over 7,000%, as a matter of fact, in that very same window of time. So if you're holding a bunch of savings in cash, that's losing buying power by the day. Texas Bullion Exchange wants to help you diversify a portion of that wealth right now. Roll over maybe an existing part of your IRA or the entire thing into physical gold and silver. And right now, for every $1,000 you diversify in gold with Texas Bullion Exchange, you'll get a free ounce of silver. Claim that free silver and learn more. That website again is buytexasgold.com. Be sure and mention my name, Chris, when you reach out to them. Buytexasgold.com. Here's their number, okay? 855-839-2728. At Texas Bullion Exchange, the focus is on helping you preserve what you've worked so hard to build. Protect that wealth. Keep it safe from inflation. Tangible assets like gold and silver, not paper promises. That's what they can do for you. BuyTexasGold.com or call 855-839-2728. Be sure you mention Chris when you give them a ring.
Hey there, it's Chris Stigall. You know, this past summer, I went on a cruise with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Mike Gallagher, my Salem radio colleagues, and I met so many listeners like you who have been on my PhD weight loss program journeys, and I decided for myself it was time to jump in. I wanted to give this Dr. Ashley everybody's been talking about call myself. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team customize plans for your body to make weight loss simple, and they provide 80% of your food at no additional cost. They treat your whole person, and so I've decided to join so many of you. Join Sebastian Gorka, join Mike Gallagher, and all the weight they've lost, I'd like to do it myself. I've decided to call up my PhD weight loss. I hope you'll join me. Maybe we can start this weight loss journey together. Reach out, get started. Tell them I sent you and said hi. I'd love to hear how you're doing at 864-664-1900. That's 864-664-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Don't forget to tell them Chris Stigall is going to start losing weight with you.
Glad to have you along this morning, folks. Hey, welcome in to the Thursday edition of the show. Our telephone number, 855-STIGALL, if you want to get in here. Live shot of the southern tip of Manhattan this morning. Beautiful shot. Sun coming up on the East Coast. Looks like it's mostly sunny up and down the eastern seaboard today. And wherever you happen to be, if you're listening on a great Salem radio station affiliate, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, if you listen to this show via the podcast, sincerely, thanks so much for being here. However it is you choose to consume the show, because it is now more than ever more competitive than ever, and so it's not taken for granted or taken lightly by any of us who work hard to put the show together that you spend time with us. So thank you. If you'd like to know more about this show, me, social media, as well as my 3 times a week newsletter, The Harump Society, always you can find it all and my podcast every day at chrisstigall.com. chrisstigall.com. Easy to find, easy to get to. Everything you need is linked right there. Great conversations yesterday. If you missed it with Caroline Levitt, Kevin Hassett, and we have a few more. I might make some podcast exclusives out of it. Next week, we will be doing a 100-day tribute to the Trump administration, 100 days in. Where are they now? We'll have some interviews from the White House. We'll have some interviews from Capitol Hill. We're headed back to Washington. That's where we've been the last couple of days. We're going back because the Capitol Hill Republicans now, at least on the House side, as I understand it, they want to talk. They're eager to chat now, and I gather it's because they're close to the one big beautiful bill, and I think they're ready to not only sell it, I think they need help getting the Senate on board, is what this is just my version of the story. Nobody's told me this specifically. My hunch is the House is ready to roll out with the big beautiful bill. They want to brag about the fact they've come to terms with something, but they're going to need the Senate's buy-in, and that's going to have to come from your insistence that the Senate buy in, because they know they're not going to be able to get the Senate to do it by themselves. They're going to need to let the public know that this one big beautiful bill is ready to go. So it's going to be an interesting dance. I'm happy to be in the middle of it. I'm grateful that people reach out to this show because they want to talk to you. They know how valuable this audience is. They know the vast size of this audience. And so when the White House reaches out, when Capitol Hill Republicans reach out, that means they want to talk to you, and that is the most important thing, because it's you who are ultimately going to ring the bell of your senators and representatives and tell them, hey, I need some relief out here. I want no tax on overtime. I want no tax on Social Security. I want no tax on tips. And if you can get rid of the income tax altogether, even better. So good stuff coming up in the next week. Don't miss the show. 855-STIGALL is how you get in here. What do you think about $5,000 to have a baby? Fast Eddie, you've had one so far. Is $5,000 enough to motivate you to have another one?
I
mean, let's just say I could give you $5,000 right now. Is that reason enough to have a baby for you?
Right now, yes.
It would be. So, like, if I said, hey, I'm going to give you $5,000 today if you and your wife go out there and procreate?
Today it makes sense. In 5 years, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Because you're trying to get one to sleep now. That's
right.
Yeah. Boy, I tell you, this makes people mad. Over there at The View, the hens over at The View, Sunny Houston, however the hell you say her name, 1673. Of course it's racist, don't you know?
When I look at something like this, these proposals, I want to know why, and I want to know who's making them. And so when I looked into that, they're saying that the U.S. birth rate is declining. However, in 2024, there was a 1% increase in U.S. births. But that increase was with Hispanic mothers and Asian mothers. So they don't seem to be concerned about that increase. They seem to be more concerned about a decrease in other populations.
Say it.
No, I think I said enough.
It's not based on that.
And so, well, it's just based on a study. And so the other thing
but
I will.
Have they said that anywhere? I mean, I feel like you have to be fair.
It's just fair to who? It's just a.
Have they said that this is to target only white families?
Oh, I didn't say that.
We have to read between the lines.
I just gave the stats.
Yeah, but it's about economics. They're wanting people to pay in.
I'm just giving.
She maybe one of the most ignorant human beings on television. A collection of them, really. I don't know what kind of money they're paid. And ABC News, that is a product of the ABC News division. I remind you again, there at The View. This incredibly stupid woman just read a statistic about Asian and Hispanics and an uptick in their procreation in 2024, and then says, holding that against the overall decline in birth rate, she says, well, it seems to me the only decline in birth rates are amongst whites. So we all know that Trump wants to encourage birth rate uptick in whites. Dummy, let me tell you something. Dummy, you read a stat about Hispanic and Asian mothers and an uptick in procreation amongst them and births amongst them. You're not talking about the totality of the population, dummy. So, dummy, the stat about procreation and people having kids in the country comes from the universe of all mothers, regardless of race. If you extract Hispanics and Asians, yes, you can then effectively say they're having more kids than the rest of the total population. Wow. I mean, I can't even begin to express how stupid. But anyway, that's how she ultimately gets to Trump wants whites to procreate. Never mind Hispanics. I don't know where Asians fell. I haven't looked at the totals. Never mind, Hispanics are going hard for Trump now anyway. And by the way, on Hispanics specifically, I will just say this. Hispanics also culturally are majority believers in Christ. They are Christians. And they are of deep family value and tradition. And that's a wonderfully good thing for the country. People that come here legally and migrate here legally and become citizens of the United States, particularly those who are Hispanic, I welcome it. I love it. Much like Italian families. I think the love, the passion for family that exists in large Hispanic and Italian families, I love it. I admire it so much. Irish families, too. My wife, my mother-in-law, my wife's family, my mother-in-law is one of 14 kids. And when these people get together at holidays, it's like a corporate Christmas party. I've never seen so many people with the same last name. It's charming. I love it. I love family. And so the vicious reaction by some of these shrill, harpy, left-wing women that this is somehow insulting and offensive and he doesn't know what it takes to raise a family, it's biblical, actually. You ladies should know that, assuming you are believers, and I'm sure many of them aren't. The Bible places a high value on having children. The Bible views children as a blessing and a gift from God. Just so you know, there are all kinds of biblical verses. There's all kinds of scripture that points to the importance of children in both Old and New Testament. It highlights the joy of having kids. It highlights the responsibility of raising them and the value God places on them. And most importantly, I would just say to a good number of you that maybe don't like this or it offends you or you think it's somehow a direct shot at your character or something because you don't have kids. It's really not about you, but I do say to you, I like the importance of kids and the reason kids are important and the reason they're scripturally written about many, many times is ultimately they're a heritage and a reward to you. Psalm 127, verse 3 through 5, a heritage from the Lord, a reward. God's blessings on those with children. This is from Psalm 113. Mentions God giving barren women a home and making her the joyous mother of children. The importance of raising children in the faith, of course. Children as a blessing to families. This is maybe one of the most significant ones. Psalm 127, verses 4 through 5, describes children as arrows in the hands of a warrior, suggesting they are a source of strength and protection. They absolutely are. And you know when you're going to most know it? I love that scripture, Psalm 127, verses 4 through 5, describing children as arrows in the hands of a warrior. I suspect there are a good number of people in this audience. I think I can say it with some confidence about my own parents. It is when you are a retiree, when you're a senior citizen, when you're in your last days, it is those children that you have that will surround you. Nobody else. They will carry on with your legacy. It's the utmost in reward in life to have children. So I would just say broadly, I mean, there are 1,000 reasons why people can't have kids or don't want to have kids. It's not a judgment on you that you don't have them. But I would really encourage you, if you're one of these people that has this vicious reaction to Trump saying, hey, maybe we'll give you $5,000 to go have a baby. It's good for the country. I mean, the country does have to have a sustainable human population. We have to have that. That is important. But it's more important biblically to you and your family. I've never met anybody with children in their older age in particular that aren't grateful to God they have them. Not only in their old age, but you get it. Glad to have you along on the Chris Stigall Show. Looking live at downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Glad to have you along. By the way, it is Missouri, for those of you who don't know. Kansas City, Missouri. Yes, there is a Kansas City, Kansas, but it's not the Kansas City that you know. No disrespect to Kansas City, Kansas. But there are many, many people, particularly East Coast people, that do not know that Kansas City is Missouri. And for now, although there's a big discussion there, the Kansas City Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs, that's where they are. They're on the Missouri side of the state line. But there is talk that Kansas is trying to steal them both. The Royals, they say, might even, it's interesting, Nashville, the big hot up-and-coming city out there, there is talk that Nashville, Tennessee is making a big play for the Kansas City Royals. And the guy that owns the Royals, Fast Eddie, is he's a real rich guy who basically he's going to go where the money goes, and he doesn't have any loyalty necessarily to the city of Kansas City. So it sounds like he's in talks, maybe, to take the Kansas City Royals to Nashville as an expansion team.
Oh, man.
How about that?
And for the team here, did Washington ever move their teams out of D.C. and into Virginia?
Yeah. Well, it would be a blow, obviously, to Kansas City and a heritage baseball team like that going to. But Nashville's where the action is. They want a team. They want one bad. They're building a beautiful new football stadium there in Nashville too, right next door to the old one. So who knows? But anyway, I digress. The telephone number 855-STIGAL. If you want to get in here, is Melanie still with us in Texas? She's been waiting very patiently. Melanie, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Welcome into the show.
Good morning. How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I love your show, my husband and I both.
Thank you, Melanie.
I've got several different opinions about stuff, but my main one is on these transgender guys that want to get in front of the girls and expose themselves. To me,
what's that about?
They're a bunch of perverts that have found a way legally to expose themselves and get by with it. I don't know why that hasn't already been mentioned. But that's what I see at 75 years old. You learn stuff,
So I've regularly called it mental illness. You think it's a perversion on top of it, which I suppose is a version of mental illness.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a mental illness. I think it's just a perversion, and it's scriptural. You have perverts out there, and they're using our legal system to get by with it.
Do you find it strange that Democrats are dying on that hill? Like, there's a whole political party committed to defending it. Do you find that? I mean, really, just as an aside, I mean, I'm not trying to make it Republican versus Democrat. I'm just asking, as a human being, do you find it curious there's an entire political party that thinks that's a hill to die on, protecting men doing that?
No, I don't think it's, it's normal for perverts. And I think there's a lot of the Democrats that are perverted.
Well, there you go. Melanie, you can't say it any more clearly than that. Perverted birds of a feather flock together and do a lot of flocking, apparently. We've seen it. They videotaped themselves in the Senate chambers flocking. Our phone number again, 855-STIGAL, if you want to get in here. Thank you, Melanie. Well said. Way to put a bow on it. Generational change could be coming fast for Senate Democrats. This is a piece that I, oftentimes when I see something regularly in the headlines, I will set it aside, intending to visit it because I start to notice trends in news. And I will start collecting stories so that I can show you the arc in storylines in the media. Most people lead lives and they don't have time to do this sort of thing. This is my job, so this is why I do this for you. You ready for this? So weeks ago, they wrote, generational change could be coming fast for Senate Democrats. Democrats have been grappling with the need for generational change inside their party leadership in the months since last November's election. In the Senate, that debate could soon get kicked into overdrive. We saw Dick Durbin say he's out yesterday. And so they're talking about the Democrat caucus needing young people. And that brings us to the little cherub of Parkland, David Hogg. David Hogg went out there in the media a couple of weeks ago trashing democracy as a political system. Democracy is what put us through school shooter drills and school shootings, he posted on X. It's what put us through the climate crisis and so much more. Hogg started getting even more mouthy. Parkland survivor and activist David Hogg speaks to a crowd as DNC National Committee Vice Chair, saying he will challenge asleep-at-the-wheel Democrats. Politico then writes David Hogg ignited a circular firing squad. And then today, this was all weeks ago, today, DNC gives David Hogg an ultimatum. I'll continue with more in just a minute. Glad to have you along. Telephone number 855-STIGAL if you want to weigh in. I was just talking about the Democrats here, and I wanted to revisit it for a second because I've been watching this story arc for a while, and we've covered it here, day by day, the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs and the Bernie Bros and the oligarchy, all that stuff. But what's going on? Well, I've written about this at the Harumph Society as well. I'll have a new edition of that out tomorrow if you're not a member yet. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I wrote this very thing. I believe that AOC and people like Jasmine Crockett are trying to become the party power brokers because there's a total vacuum in the party. There is no leadership. None. Hakeem Jeffries is weak and ineffective. This is not Nancy Pelosi's Democrat Party anymore. She would never have allowed these lunatics to be running the asylum. She always had a way of reining them in, but she's gone. For instance, Jasmine Crockett out there on Jimmy Kimmel. 1662. Take a listen to her this week.
Incompetence is almost like incomprehensible. It is so bad. And when you bring up the idiot known as Elon Musk, is not only like very sinister and has no idea what he's doing, and people are like, oh no, he absolutely knows because he's the richest man in the world. Like, yes, he knows how to hire smart people, but don't conflate that and believe that he is the genius, because he ain't.
He ain't a genius. Okay, look, this is their face now. She wants to be the power center. She and AOC are vying right now for the mic time, for the spotlight. People like Jimmy Kimmel are all too happy to feed it. They are of the belief that they need to swear more and become more aggressive and more full tilt loon. The more aggressive they get, they live in this world where they get $5 and $10 donations from people on the left, and they think they're doing the Lord's work. They're encouraged by the likes of Kimmel because people like Kimmel and left-wing activist types, or people that fund left-wing activist types, they don't care. They just want to see action. They just want to see somebody looking like they're fighting. They don't care that the public doesn't want it. They don't care that the public sees that the government is at odds with the people of this country. The left doesn't. The hard left wants more government. They want bigger, more intrusive government. That's always what they've stood for. Big, corrupt, bloated, bureaucratic, authoritarian government. And Trump is trying at this hour to do exactly the opposite. Scale it down, roll back the regulations, give you back more of your income, empower the consumer, empower the taxpayer, build a business base back here. The left likes the idea of the very, very tippy top to be in total control of everything, and the rest of us live under shot mandates or threat of losing our jobs. And there is no leadership anymore, so Jasmine Crockett thinks, well, maybe I'll get out there and grab it. AOC thinks, well, maybe I'll get out and grab it. Because if the money's coming into them, or if the money is coming into the likes of little David Hogg, who's now vice chair of the party, their little cherub from Parkland, how in the world he got that position, I'll never know. The old dogs like James Carville are saying, and while James Carville's a nut, I mean, he's still saying, this little pipsqueak is now running our party? You can't do that. AOC and Jasmine Crockett and David Hogg are not the majority of this country, but they are the most vocal. They are the most, if you want, sexy to the activist left. They are the ones that are hoovering up the cash right now. There is no elder statesperson like Nancy Pelosi to keep it all in line, you see. And so I had this stack of stories. This has been the storyline. This has been the story arc for a while now. Generational change could be coming fast for Senate Democrats. Many senators are hailing the modest shift that's already underway that has empowered an influx of opinionated, media-savvy freshmen and elevated some of the caucus's younger members into the lower rungs of the leadership ladder. Okay, so that was first written at Politico back on the 15th of April. By the 19th of April, the story is David Hogg was out there trashing democracy entirely. Democracy brought us school shootings, he says. He wants to do something about democracy. How's that for a message? The Democrat Party wants to do... That's why I call them Democrat, not Democratic. There is nothing democratic about the Democrat Party. And now their vice chair is saying it. They don't like democracy. They want rid of it. So at first, their loving embrace of Hogg, the little cherub, they thought they were going to put Boss Hogg in play. By the way, that's mine. Copyright, trade that. Boss Hogg, that's mine. Dukes of Hazzard reference, Boss Hogg. Mine, put it down. When people start using it, remember where it came from. Boss Hogg. So when Democrats put Boss Hogg in charge... as what is it Levin says? The backbenchers. The backbenchers are going to come steal my Boss Hogg reference. You know it. That's solid.
Yeah, no, it is. Just like Maryland Man, Chris. Come on.
That's all right. As long as you know where the good ideas flow, that's all that matters to me. You're here, and that's all that matters to me. So anyway, Boss Hogg was being celebrated. They brought him in. They thought, boy, if we kind of lovingly put our arm around Boss Hogg, maybe everybody will settle down. They won't be so mean to little Hakeem Jeffries and whatnot. No, they've only become more emboldened. Jasmine Crockett, Jimmy Kimmel, AOC, Bernie, the oligarchy. They've all become more emboldened now. Because again, vacuum of leadership. They've become so emboldened, as a matter of fact, they're out there now saying things like, we're going to tear down democracy as we know it. It doesn't work. And then little David Hogg, Boss Hogg, he goes out there and he pledges to upend Democrat primaries by funding personally. You see what I'm saying? They're hoovering up the money, and so they're personally pledging, I will spend the money that I'm collecting, because a bunch of emotional left-wing idiots are out there sending $5 and $10 to these morons every time they go on Jimmy Kimmel or they give some sort of speech with a bullhorn. There are people that will give them money. And they're collecting an impressive sum of it. And now, Boss Hogg is out there thumping his chest saying, you know what? I'm getting a little tired of you Democrats in Congress that aren't doing my bidding or fighting hard enough or whatever. What more do you want from this Democrat Party? They're flying to El Salvador to spring an illegal alien for you. They're fighting as hard as they can to defend all of the non-governmental organizations and the bloated government spending. They're doing everything they can to force shots on you, whether you want them or not. I would submit to you the Democrat Party has never been more aggressive and overarching in their authoritarianism than they are right now. But for Boss Hogg and AOC and Jasmine Crockett, not nearly enough. And for good measure, we're going to throw in some swear words because that really makes us sound tough. Sounds like we're really taking action now. Right. So Boss Hogg, 25 years old, says, hey, I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to start funding candidates who challenge, quote, ineffective, asleep-at-the-wheel Democrats. David Hogg ignited a circular firing squad, Politico later wrote, just 2 days later, inside the DNC. Newly elected Boss Hogg in March never signed on to the DNC's pledge that they would not primary sitting Democrat candidates. He refused. So they brought in Boss Hogg and they said, hey, boss, do you mind signing this pledge that we're not going to primary candidates? He said, He tricked them. It was a rope-a-dope. Boss Hogg got the Democrats to lovingly embrace him, bring him in, make him a hood ornament. Look, fringe lunatic left. We brought in Boss Hogg. See? Hey, Boss Hogg, do you mind signing this pledge that says we're all going to play nice together and we're not going to primary one another? And he, I'm a bit of a bird enthusiast. You know what starlings are? You know what starlings do, Fanistetti? Starlings. They're non-native to the United States. They come in from Europe. Nasty little birds. They go in and they take the eggs out of, like robins' nests or cardinals' nests. They kill the eggs. They take them, and they will lay eggs in the nest of the robin or the cardinal and let the robin and the cardinal hatch their babies. That's what starlings do. This is what David Hogg has done. He's a starling. He's the blackbird of the DNC. He invaded their space, and now he's laying an egg, and he's making them own it. And and they're terrified now because they're like, what have we done? We brought him in, and now he didn't sign the pledge, and now he's collecting all this money, and he's pledging to attack our own. We can't have this, they say. Which brings me to the latest story. DNC gives David Hogg an ultimatum. This is not going to end well when you hear DNC an ultimatum. They're going to force David Hogg to decide, get out of your attempts to primary other Democrats or lose your post. Oh, my. So it's been a very short honeymoon for the DNC and Boss Hogg. Bring him in, show the wackos we're embracing the wackos, then the wackos rule the asylum, and they say, you got to get out of here. We can't have you here. We're going to give you an ultimatum. Do you know how that's going to embolden the wackos? If David Hogg becomes a martyr, if David Hogg, if Boss Hogg, if little David, the cherub of Parkland, gets kicked out of the DNC for fighting sitting Democrats, do you know how they're only going to make him bigger? He's going to become Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man big. He's going to... David Hogg will soon become the face of the wacky lunatic left. Jasmine Crockett, AOC, stand aside. You ain't seen nothing yet. Boss Hogg is on the case. So Democrats are threatening to throw him out if he doesn't promise he won't primary. Democrats are getting nervous, is what I'm telling you. From the Hill, we talked a little about this yesterday with Aaron McGuire in studio. Democrats wonder if the Abrego Garcia case is a political fight worth having. Maybe it's a bad idea to go spring the gang member from an El Salvador prison. Gavin Newsom said, I don't even know what my party is anymore. Sure he doesn't. Well, he's trying to moderate and tax center. As we know, he's been using some conservatives on his podcast to do that. So people like Newsom are smart enough to know it's time to moderate. Democrats, even, inside the party, their party chair are saying, we can't have you primarying fellow Democrats. This could end poorly. And do you know why they know that? Because who ends up winning primaries? The most passionate, The most passionate people win primaries. Bernie had this passion before. When they ran Granny Crooked Hacker, Hillary Clinton, twice, and she failed both times, Bernie came surging. And the Democrat Party rigged it for Hillary. Bernie would have won that going away had the DNC not rigged it for Hillary. Tulsi Gabbard, if you remember, left the party over that. Now they're trying to do it to Boss Hogg. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people. Pop the popcorn. Well, I have to tell you that there is big change in the Trump administration, and that's ultimately why, of course, there's such a vicious response. As we've chronicled a lot with Doge and big changes inside the bureaucracies, probably no more consequential than the ones being found in the Secretary of State's office. Marco Rubio rolling out the first stage of a major plan to reorganize the State Department with changes that will eliminate 132 domestic offices and cut another 700. The State Department is one of the fattest, dumbest organizations of them all. The most bloated, stupid department maybe of them all, the State Department. People with a bunch of stupid titles and gold lame business cards with the United States seal on it that say they're the bunch of pompous academics at the State Department. And Rubio's going in there and eliminating about 700 of them. And this, of course, is what ultimately elicits the vicious reaction from the American left. What drives the likes of the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs and the Boss Hoggs. Your taxpayer dollars have been going through all of these organizations and these offices largely to fund them in one form or another. And they've been found out, courtesy of Elon Musk and Doge and most of Trump's cabinet. People like Marco Rubio, they're going into their respective departments. Pete Hegseth is over at Defense. Linda McMahon is at Education. Bondi is at DOJ. I mean, probably nobody has done more aggressive cutting and finding waste, fraud, and abuse than Lee Zeldin at EPA. Look, if your gravy train was about to dry up, if you had a good thing going and a free flow of money, you'd be screaming and yelling too. And the Washington Times has a piece this week headlined, "The left's hatred of Trump has boiled over. Death threats spread to just about anyone who works for him." Anyone. President Trump, no stranger to threats on his life, and has survived 2 assassination attempts, but death threats and violence have started targeting his cabinet officials and other members of the administration as well. A Pennsylvania man recently charged with repeatedly threatening to kill Mr. Trump, top advisor Elon Musk, and ICE agents. The man, a guy called Sean Monper, age 32. He used the online moniker Mr. Satan and tried to obtain a firearm permit shortly after Mr. Trump's inauguration in January. He was also from Butler, the same place where President Trump narrowly escaped assassination, where he was, by the way, I say again, allowed to be shot at. Never forget that very, very critical word. I use that word intentionally and on purpose every time. Donald Trump was allowed to be shot at in Butler, Pennsylvania that day. You can fill in the blanks as to who was behind the allowing it to happen, but it was allowed to happen. And I say, again, the reason you know that is no Secret Service detail since the Kennedy assassination would ever allow a guy on a roof from 150 yards a free and clear shot at a presidential podium. It doesn't happen. It's impossible. It's not negligence. It was allowed to happen. They have wanted Trump and Elon Musk and what they want them dead. So the Washington Times finally writing this story. I think they're a little late to it, but I'm glad they wrote it. Mr. Musk, who leads Doge and the cost-cutting efforts there, owns Tesla. Some of Tesla's dealerships have been firebombed. Electric vehicles being damaged and vandalized. New Mexico resident Jameson Wagner, age 40, faces federal arson charges in attacks this year in New Mexico on a Tesla dealership there. Graffiti spray painted in red and black. You saw somebody break in yesterday, not break in, but went into the lobby of Trump Tower there, trespassing in New York, and spray painted the presidential seal in the lobby of Trump Tower in New York. Tulsi Gabbard and her family have recently received death threats from a Georgia man, a guy called Al-Akbar Mohammed Amin, age 24, sent Miss Gabbard text messages such as, "Prepare to die. Tulsi, you and everyone you hold dear, America will burn." The left's hatred has boiled over. Death threats spread to just about everyone working for him. And who's collecting money from people like these? Boss Hogg. AOC. Jasmine Crockett. And who's excited about those people? People like Jimmy Kimmel. People like the hens at The View, giving them platforms, cheering them on. As far as I'm concerned, if this is what the DNC wants to allow and enable and make I mean, if they don't provide a new way forward, Republicans will win just by default, which is actually not a place, by the way, I want the Republicans, because I don't want them sitting around yawning, rocking on the porch and, clinking their martini glasses at cocktail hour, not doing anything because they think the Democrats have gotten so bat crap crazy, we'll just vote Republican for the sake of it. Don't assume that's true either, Republicans. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.